That's especially alarming for President Trump, considering that he won the election in large part because voters thought he could handle top issues like the economy better than Vice President Kamala Harris. Another one of those issues is immigration. I want to talk about that now because we saw protests break out all over the country over ICE and their deportation practices. But about a week and a half ago, we saw demonstrations in Los Angeles over workplace raids by ICE. And the scene on the ground, by some reports, has been called largely peaceful with pockets of violence and chaos. We've also seen images and heard stories of cars being lit on fire, vandalism, and skirmishes between law enforcement and protesters. We even saw a video of a motorcycle driving into police officers. So what do voters and Americans think about the scene in Southern California over the past week and a half?
Well, voters are clearly against violence. And the paradox in the public opinion around the LA riots is that a majority, 56%, believe that Trump should have the power to trigger the National Guard in those types of a situation. And they supported Trump sending the troops to quell the violence. At the same time, though, 55% believe that Trump really escalated the situation through the very strong-handed immigration raids in a corner of the country that has a lot of immigrants, and I'm sure that that was deliberate by the administration, and then also escalated it by immediately sending the National Guard rather than relying on some kind of a process. So actually, the public and voters are very sensible in their position. In one side, a very strong majority said that the mayor in LA and the governor in California should have done more to condemn the violence. They should have sent the police to protect the federal agent from violent acts. And because they didn't do this, Trump was justified in sending the National Guard and the Marines to protect the ICE agents. But at the same time, when it comes to who created the combustible environment, they blame more Trump than they blame Democratic leaders. And again, this is the story on immigration, right? The goals of the president's policy, closing the borders, removing criminal immigrants from the country as fast as we can, they have overwhelming support, right? Two-thirds support closing the border or clamping it down, and three-fourths, 75% support removing illegal immigrants who are criminals. But at the same time, 50-50 believe that good people are actually being removed when the goal should be criminal illegal immigrants, and the majority support Democrats fighting for due process and believe that Democrats are standing up for citizens' rights and human rights when they're doing so. So really, I would say that bottom line, it's the execution that is challenging for the administration. Sometimes the antagonism, it's almost pre-designed in terms of how these policies are carried out. But voters still support Trump when it comes to the policies themselves.
And something you've alluded to in this conversation is that standoff between Governor Gavin Newsom and President Trump, because against the governor's wishes, President Trump deployed the National Guard and then additional Marine troops. And this was the first time a president has done this without a governor asking in 60 years. So is what you're saying that the American people are more in the middle when it comes to this issue? They can almost see both sides, but they do think that the Trump administration is acting a little too much in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's precedent for the president using the National Guard to restore order or push for a federal policy that's not being enacted at the state level. In the 1960s, during the Civil Rights Act era, Eisenhower, Kennedy, several presidents actually used the National Guard to push through for policies. So I think that where it comes down to it is that voters do not want violence, and voters still are in a wait and see posture when it comes to Trump policies. They're really allowing President Trump to play his hand when it comes to his policies and his promises, which almost all have majority approval. And that's where the Democrats are getting it wrong, because they are essentially resisting many policies that voters are in favor of. Where Trump is getting it wrong and where the Democrats are seizing the opportunity and winning points with the electorate is really in the execution of these policies. Some of these policies are not very well thought out of. Many of these policies are being enacted in a very antagonizing way, and voters also don't like that. So you're right, voters are in the middle, but they're showing remarkable, or public opinion is reflecting remarkable sensibility when it comes to how they're judging the actions from both sides. And really key for both sides, whether it's Donald Trump on one side or Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, if the situation in LA continues on the other side, is that whoever shows the most sensibility and acts the most pragmatically is the one that's going to win points in the courtroom of public opinion on this issue.
I'm curious just how generous you think, or you've seen in the past, the American people be when it comes to waiting and seeing. Because I could see if it was a president's first term, right? And you wait the first 6 months, you see how things go out, you let them settle in. But this is technically, I know it's different times, but technically President Trump's second term. I know he had that 4-year break, but it is his second term. So he's been a president now for 4 years and 6 months, roughly. I mean, how much longer are the Americans going to give him that benefit of waiting and seeing?
Well, it depends on whether or not Trump has wins to show to his base and the broader public or not. American voters like accomplishment, they like winning. And I will give you kind of the story of where the public is through 3 different questions and 3 different charts that we asked. We asked the question, do you think Democrats should oppose everything the Trump administration is doing, or should they take more of a wait and see attitude towards his actions? 58% said take more of a wait and see attitude. We then asked, do you think Democrats should oppose Trump on tariffs and trade policy, or should they see how this initiative plays out over the next few months? They're more split there. 49% say oppose, 51% say see how the tariffs play out. And then on the question of, do you think the Democrats should oppose Trump on immigration policy or see how this initiative plays out? And on immigration, Trump has more to show than on the economy and tariffs and other issues. There are 54% say let it play out, and 46%, and a growing share of the voter base say oppose Trump on immigration. So I think that as we approach the 6 month mark, if Trump has wins and the public understands that these wins are not just red meat for the base, but they're pushing the country towards a better place, they will give him more runway. And as he acquires these wins, he has then the ability to move forward and push for more of his policies. And if he doesn't, and if there is another debacle on tariffs, then what you'll see is job approvals dropping even further, and voters saying, "Okay, now we let you play your hand. You weren't really able to accomplish what you say you were." By the way, these questions, this is the midterm playing out live in front of our eyes a year and a half before the midterm actually happens. The midterm will be decided by questions like this. And this is why we're tracking the specific questions, because if voters still give Trump the benefit of the doubt, then the Republicans will be heading into the midterms with a lot of wind in their back, a lot of tailwind. And if these numbers flip and voters all of a sudden say, you played your hand, we're not giving you a wait and see attitude anymore, then you should expect the Democrats to have the tailwind as they go into the midterm.